discipline equals freedom. When I left like a stable career and a very set career path, it felt like discipline was something I didn't want in my life. I wanted to be, I saw discipline as being constricting, and I negatively associated discipline with something that was going to restrict me or limit me. But then as I've got older and I'm busier and I have more things going on, I see that actually that being disciplined is create space for the things that I really want to do rather than it being chaotic. And then ended up falling asleep at the wheel, crashing my car. That was a massive wake-up call for me to be like, you need to slow down, set some boundaries and say no to some things.
Yes, people, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for being here. Please hit that subscribe button. A significant amount of people do not subscribe who listen. Please don't make that you. Very simple, it's very effective, and I need to grow the channel. So thank you. Please subscribe. Alex Sesto. I'm going to link to our first episode here. This man is a movement coach. He's a space holder. He's one of the founders of the Psychedelic integration platform, Return to Nature. They host retreats in the UK and abroad. And above all, he's my brother. And I have so much time for Alex. His values, the way he moves through life, how honest, open, and caring he is. How much time he has for people doing the work, and how much he puts into all he does. So I know you're going to get a lot from the podcast. It was an amazing conversation. Stay with it to the end because we talk and touch upon some powerful, impactful topics, including the power and importance of community and integration, and how his recent car accident shaped him and how many lessons he learned from that. So enjoy the episode with Alex Sesto. Do you have a sip of cacao in the mornings or evenings like solo?
Yeah, I do, yeah. I would often buy it for retreats and then have it at home. And mornings always felt nice to have and to go through the process of making it and stirring it, or quite being really present with it. And
singing to it?
Didn't ever sing to it, actually. Oh, cacao. No.
People do. It changes the compound, changes the chemical reaction.
Yeah. You singing to your cacao?
Nursery rhymes. Am I singing to it? But then I'm like, is it Icaros or is it like what's familiar to me? Who knows? Humming's good. As long as it's upbeat. It's like coming from a good place.
Yeah. Sending it some good vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I believe in that. You know.
Well, you sing that steady, right? And that 2 glasses of water. And they talk to it in different ways.
Yeah. I've seen even labels on it that just say positive or negative things and affects the structure.
No way. That's another level.
It's wild. You know, the world is way more crazy than we can possibly conceive, I think, you know. Yeah. So there's so much that we don't know, you know. And science is playing catch up, I think, with a lot of these things and figuring out things slowly, and I think it's just everything's so much more interconnected and complex that it just takes years and years and years of science to understand the nature of reality, you know, to fully understand it. We think we get it, and then something comes out that just turns everything on its head and doesn't make sense anymore.
I wanted to ask you, actually, what your mission is in life. Do you have one? Have you narrowed it down? Is it like a sentence? How does that?
Yeah, I did. Must be a couple of years ago now. I did a journaling course from. Do you know Eric Godsey?
Yes.
Yeah.
You pointed me on. Well, Jamie mentioned him. I started. No, I'm thinking of Eddie Owsley. Who's Eric Godsey then? Oh yes, yes.
Yeah, he's. I think he might be the CEO of
Fit for Service.
Fit for Service now. Yeah, and he had a journaling course, and I just felt really cool to do some guided journaling, and did it with him. And then I did a follow-up course with him that was about creating this pyramid that essentially you define what your purpose is and your mission, and it was to see if I can memorize it now. This was a couple of years ago, so I need to revisit it, but it was something along the lines of leading a life that helps people back to their authenticity while at the same time inspiring my children to be great.
Wow.
And so it was that. and that encompassed lots of things and lots of practices and businesses, and just the kind of running theme of the energy of the things that I want to put out is always around that.
Yeah, man, the mission. So, leading a life of authenticity and
inspiring my children to be great. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, because I always felt like I didn't want to be the type of dad that tells my kids, "Oh, you should do this or you should do that." You know, I wanted my life to be the example that I set to them, and the things that I do to be things that they want to emulate, because, you know, they feel not necessarily that they need to do exactly what I do, but just that they, you know, that they know that they can become their own version of greatness, you know, and pursue the thing that is their authenticity. And I thought the best way to teach them that is to live it myself, you know, and to become that, this idea of embodiment, I suppose, you know, I've been thinking about a lot recently, which is, you know, where you're like, you get knowledge, and you take in that knowledge, or you have an experience and you get some insights from that, but until you get to the point of it becoming embodied, you don't really have access to the power of what that was, you know. And I think that takes time, and it takes consistency and practice, and that's what I'm trying to align to.
What's been the most effective way of embodying something for you?
I think things like morning routine and whatever it is, trying to connect to it consistently and in the same sort of pattern. So having a practice, having some ritual, waking up, doing some breath work, doing some hape, sitting, breathing, meditating, and sort of staying aligned to what the mission is, and thinking about what I want to call him.
You talk a bit about more authenticity and how you connect with that part of yourself.
Yeah, I think for me now, I feel like I'm very connected to it. And I think lots of things that I do speak to that part of myself. But it's kind of, it shifts and evolves really, because it originally was around me doing in the world the thing that I felt like I should be doing, the thing that felt like is the thing that comes from the core of who I am, and not doing something that feels like it's not my path. And that was all around changing careers and getting into all of the work that I do now. And now I feel like it's shifting into more of a relational authenticity, and being able to really speak truth and honesty in every relationship that I have, you know.
Every moment, every connection on the street, person that you meet, is that the same person that is at home?
Yeah. And so I feel like I recognise it in people now. I feel like I can see when I meet people quite often now, if there's a guard up, if there's a mask on, you know, and there's no judgment there if I notice that sort of thing, but I can sense it a little bit more. And I also can sense at the same time when somebody is coming from a real place of authenticity, because it just the interaction resonates in a different way.
Yeah, I feel that. It's fascinating when something just doesn't quite seem right. You don't know what it is. The first immediate reaction is to judge it and to be afraid of it. Maybe what's this person hiding, or what are they trying to get from me? I think as men, speaking for myself, I definitely have had that, and I still do. Trusting is a big thing. If something doesn't, like, I do connect with a lot of people, and immediately I'm like, yes, like I feel there's a resonance there, and like what you're saying is exactly what you mean, and I just understand it in a way that's true for me too. But when it doesn't feel that way, I feel like I'm getting better at that as well, to understand whether someone is speaking their truth or hiding something. It might be because they're afraid, or they want to show you a part of themselves that they're hiding another part. Yeah,
you know, this energy exchange and this kind of thing, it's really real, you know, and it's something that I've definitely felt and noticed, you know, what that interaction with that person, how it makes me feel inside, you know, my nervous system, and if I feel relaxed by them, if I feel kind of a little bit more tense around that energy, and I think paying attention to that, you know, there's a lot of information in it, in that kind of communication, and it's sort of not necessarily listening to the words that are said, but it's just the energy behind the words that are said that you're picking up on, I think.
Yeah, man. So yeah, anything that you would say to someone who doesn't know what that actually feels like? Because I spent a long time of my life like not knowing what I connect with and what I don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you don't know if whether it's you or them.
Yeah.
It's sometimes harder. Is it me? Am I not connecting or feeling this because something's misaligned within me?
Yeah.
Or is it that I'm picking up something from this other person? It's like that dance between the two.
You know, when I think back to myself, I think there was definitely a time in my life where I did try to project a certain way of a certain type of person that I was trying to be, and it wasn't necessarily authentic. It was because I wanted to fit in, or to, I don't know, to just project this version that I thought was better than the truth of who I was, maybe. So I think the first step is probably to start within and to really look at yourself. You know, this old, people say doing the work all the time, don't they? And it's, you know, it's quite cliche, but it has to start from looking inward, I think, and just looking at yourself and noticing where you're being authentic with yourself, where you're being honest with yourself. You know, if you're the type of person, you know, one thing I've been speaking about recently with people is, you know, how many times do we make promises to ourselves that we break? You know, we might make a promise to someone else, oh, I'm going to be here at this time, and we show up, but to ourselves we let ourselves down. We say, oh, we're going to do this, and then we don't do it, or you know, we don't follow through with things. And I think that is like training a muscle, where but it's a muscle that's atrophying because you're constantly letting yourself down. And if you're constantly letting yourself down, then you don't trust yourself because you don't follow through. And so I think looking at yourself and looking at where you're not being honest and authentic with yourself is a great place to start, because, you know, I think we've all been guilty of it, of saying we're going to do things and not following through. And so with what I've been sharing in the work I've been sharing with workshops, is getting people to commit to something really small, you know, because I think we can also overcommit to things and think we can take on more than we can, and just whatever it is that you want to do, just make it tiny. So it's, you know, there's no excuse not to do it because it's so small that you could easily get it done. But do it, and then keep doing that regularly, and then you're changing that narrative from being somebody that lets themselves down to somebody that actually fulfills it. And you can keep that energy going, and then you do a bit more and do a bit more, and then you become this person that is has a bit more follow through. And, you know, I think that helps to kind of trust yourself more.
Yeah, trust, and then from that comes confidence.
Yeah. I think then trusting yourself, then you know, whatever pathway you're taking, you trust that it's the right one, and that you can do whatever it is that you're trying to do. Is that making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a big one. And when you start to show up for yourself, it does develop that confidence. It develops like the trust within you that you can actually, like, if you acted the way with some of your closest friends that you do with yourself, you'd probably, you know, you'd get feedback there. It's fascinating when you start to think of things in that way.
Yeah, massively. It's like, you know, if you had a friend and you said, oh, we're going to go to the gym tomorrow, and then he didn't show up, and then the next day he didn't show up, and then the next day he didn't show up, you'd be like, and then he said he was going to do something else for you, you'd be like, well, I don't know if this guy's going to do this. You wouldn't have much belief in him. But if you then think about that being yourself, and that kind of consistent not following through and not doing what you say you're going to do, then the core of your being, you don't trust that you can do anything, because you haven't like shown it. And so it's just small wins, and it doesn't need to be big things. It just needs to be, you just need to do the things that you say you're going to do. That's been a big theme for me over the recent times, with making sure I was noticing that I wasn't that, and I was letting myself down, And it's like, no, I want to be able to say, oh no, I'm a man that follows through and does what he says he's going to do. And it starts real small, not overcommitting, because I think I did that too. Was overestimate what I'm capable of achieving in a window of time, and then inevitably would not get the things done that I need to get done. And so it's kind of scaling things back and looking at, okay, what is achievable, follow through, and keeping that energy going.
What are some of the things you've got that you're making commitment to this year?
What do you mean in terms of?
In terms of showing up for? Showing up
for, one thing that massively shifted for me in the past year was my training. My training was probably the worst it's been in 2022. After having my second child and taking on a lot more work, it was something that slipped. And when I reflected on the year, I was disappointed that, I think, because we all still have an ego, and a lot of my identity is around my physical capacity. And sort of seeing that had slipped, I didn't like that. It didn't feel good. And so yeah, I've definitely made the commitment to being very consistent, very disciplined with training. And discipline is another thing. I think it's Jocko Willink that says discipline equals freedom. And that really, really resonates for me, because I think when I left like a stable career and a very set career path, it felt like discipline was something I didn't want in my life. I wanted to be, I saw discipline as being constricting, and I wanted freedom and the ability to kind of do what I wanted to do and not follow that. So I think I negatively associated discipline with something that was going to restrict me or limit me. But then as I've got older and I'm busier and have more things going on, I see that actually being disciplined is liberating, because it means that you can actually compartmentalize the things that I need to do in my life and create space for the things that I really want to do, rather than it being chaotic. And, so that's a big thing for me. And I find if I get my movement right, so the way I always look at my well-being is through 4 pillars of well-being: motion, about moving your body; introspection, nurturing the mind; restoration, which is replenishing the vessel, so that's like sleep, hydration, nutrition, spending time in nature; and then education, empowering myself. So I find if I can focus on those areas, then I feel the best that I can possibly feel. And so I often will look at that and see where I'm out of alignment and where there needs to be more discipline. And the thing that slips the most for me now is the restoration and sleep and getting rest and taking care of myself, because I'm just really busy, and I've got 2 kids that sometimes wake up multiple times a night and don't get the best sleep ever. So that's the pillar that I need to give attention to. But yeah, it's mainly that. And I find that if I get the physical stuff right, and I'm if I'm nailing a few of those things, I have my morning routine where I'm meditate and breathe and ground and do all these practices, then things feel pretty good and I feel like I'm in a good place. But if any of them fall out, then I know I know the reasons why. I can sort of, that framework really helps me to.
It's a neat little framework.
Yeah,
I like it. Connect with it. Your person that I want to ask this question, like, how does your, say, motion? Let's take motion. What feedback are you looking for? And is it in terms of strength? Is it in terms of like physical aesthetics? Like what feedback? It might be a combination of lots of things, because like you're human, you have a physical body. I look for feedback in the mirror. If I'm, gaining weight, losing weight too, it's a factor. So how do you look for that feedback in terms of your training? What does that look like for you when you're improving? And is it based on a real feeling? Is it feeling based, or what's the factors there?
Yeah, I mean, it depends what I'm working on at the time, but
so you set like certain progressions to achieve a skill or something.
Yeah. So if it's something skill based, then it will be sort of working through the progressions to achieve that skill eventually. And so there's often very like consistent, not very sort of exciting, but consistent work to keep practicing and to go towards that skill. Sometimes it's more around the mental freedom that moving gives me as well, and kind of having that space to move, to get my blood flowing, to to exert myself physically. And I look for feedback in that sense. But it's generally, what I sometimes speak about is just your general movement output. It's how much have you twisted and turned and jumped and inverted, and just moved it, like use this body to its capacity. And I find that I get a lot of joy and a lot of good feelings from engaging with it in many different ways like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. And is it always at a certain space, or do you throughout the day like take these missions on and it's like, right, these snack movements throughout the day?
Yeah, it's I mean, we're always moving, so even from when you get off the train and you can go up the stairs, it's playing with that and seeing, okay, can we take these stairs 2 at a time all the way up the stairs at Covent Garden or something like that. It's there's always opportunities to be playful with it. And my kids at home, like playing with them and exploring and moving around there, so in the morning as part of the routine. So there's always opportunity to move and explore. Dancing, that's something we do a lot at home. Like with the kids, we'll put music on and we'll just dance, and it's just it's fun to move like that. So I think it's a bit of a trap to just look at training as being that 1 hour that you spend at the gym and that's it, because you're always in this body. You're not at the gym, but you're still in the body, and so you can always play and explore. Even I talk about this with Bo, the guy who I run the human experience with, and even when you're in the car and if like my wife says, "Oh, can you pass me that?" and it's in an awkward position, it's kind of an interesting way to think about how can I pick this up by reaching around the seat and exploring. And so I'm always thinking about moving and interesting ways to do it.
Yeah, because I have this, once it gets into your psyche, let's say, I'm always looking for the opportunity. Whether I drop something under the car, and I'm like, how can I use this as a playful moment to explore? Can I get it out of my foot? Can I get it out? Like trying to use that time. And the lift and the stairs, of course, is a great example. 2 at a time, and just really being playful with life and just seeing everything as a opportunity to move your body. It changes your life. It really does. How you interact with the world. Travel, like just traveling around becomes like some sort of. So I always resonate with parkour. It's like, I never did. It was probably a judgment that I had. I was like, I remember watching this skit once. It was like Rick, Bob and Rick Mortimer, was it? And they did this like comedy sketch on parkour. And it was like, bollards are my friends, and like concrete, we love it. And it was just, I probably resonate with that. But now I've grown and I understand things from that lens. I actually am in love with it. I love the practice, the playful, just curiosity of it all. Have you got into parkour at all?
I really appreciate it. I haven't got into it at any sort of lengthy capacity. We have explored quite often the idea of precision jumps that I really enjoy, and it's just phenomenal. You see people jumping huge distances and landing on a tiny rail, and the consequences are immense for missing. And it's so interesting when you explore that and you start from the very, very basics of having just a simple, maybe it's a bit of tape on the floor that you're trying to jump and land and decelerate enough that you can land and stick the jump, and then you play with just raising it a few inches, and then you play with a couple of feet, and you gradually move up and raise the stakes. And it's so interesting because you can have the same jump that one of them it's the same distance, it's the same thickness of tape that you're landing on, but then you take that to a rail that's 10 feet in the air,
edge of a cliff.
And it's the only thing that's changed is the consequence and the fear element. So I think it's such an interesting exploration of how we manage fear and how fear can limit physical capacity and how you shut out that noise. I think it's incredible with parkour athletes to see how they're able to completely disassociate from that, or manage that fear to the point that it's not going to limit their physical capacity in any way. Because so many people you could give them a really easy jump. It could be landing on a square that's very comfortable to land and stick a jump on. You put it up 50 feet in the air and then they'll miss it because the fear takes over. And it's really interesting how that filters into the physical side of things.
Let's talk about fear. What are you afraid of?
Ooh, what am I afraid of? I think some of the things that make me feel fear now are the state of the world in some ways, and more because of my children. I'm thinking about the world that they come into. I try to manage it by trying to do my bit in the world to be part of some positive change and to steer to hopefully steer things in a better direction than I see the world going in many ways. So that is definitely, that was the first thing that came to mind when you said that. And I think
just on that, when you lean into maybe solution-based living, lean into, okay, what can we do about this? Let's be a bit more aware and try and be involved with some solutions. Does that for you bring out even more stuff that you probably weren't aware of before? Because for me, when I spend time over here with people who are a lot more aware about the state of the world, I end up going deeper into, good God, I was naive. Okay, there's a lot here,
Yeah, they say ignorance is bliss, right? And it definitely feels like we're in a weird time now where we just have the ability to just know so much information about so many things, and any industry that you look into, you scratch the surface and there's incredible levels of corruption and this kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's a deep, dark well that you can go down looking at all that stuff, and it can be very overwhelming. But then I always try to come back to what is my locus of control. And I think I can't remember who was talking about it, but there are two kind of areas of awareness. There's like your locus of awareness, the things that you're aware of, and then there's the locus of control, so the things that you can actually control. And that's where to focus things really, and to just play the part that we have to, and play the role that we have to play to be part of the positive change in the world. And just not get too, I try not to absorb too much of it now. I like to be aware of as much as I can, but without letting it penetrate and bring me down, But I'm optimistic at the same time. I am optimistic for the future. But there's certainly, I think there's a hint of fear there at times. But I think I manage it in ways that don't allow it to take hold and to stifle me. Because fear is stifling, right? It's like the same as the parkour guy trying to jump. It's the reason they don't make the jump is because they're stifled by the fear. And I think fear can stifle you from achieving things and from doing things, and from saying yes to things, and from following a path that might cool you but might be risky. And so I try not to ever let that happen.
Trust, surrender, receive, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. It's that's the mantra.
I quote you to a fair few people.
I think I heard it on a podcast actually.
I think it was Zach. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's in the morning when I meditate, I say that poem to myself, that prayer, and it gives me a lot of clarity around just the energy of how to approach life. To be present and to trust, that the next step is a good one and is the right one, and if you're present and you're bringing honest, authentic energy to the projects and the interactions and just life in general, then the universe will provide and will kind of reward you for having the courage to walk that path. And then even if things, because we always have expectations, right? We're not supposed to have expectations because they can not be met, and that can
don't think they've ever met.
Yeah, and that can
It's always different.
be the source of some.
My expectation for Sunday is not what it's going to be.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that in a bit.
yeah, but I can't remember what I was going to say actually. But
no, I think one thing I've been thinking about lately is it's never been a better time to be a good person, because there's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of people. Go for a walk, go look some people in the eye, and see what hostility you'll find, and so upregulated stress there is, because it's fucking rife and it's everywhere. So why not step into that and go for a hug with everyone you meet, and really be the person that you want to meet, and just there's never been a better time to do that. I honestly feel that, because you're going to get a lot of, I mean, it's going to be, of course, you're going to meet some interesting energy, but at the same time, you'll stand out. You'll stand out from the crowd if you are open, loving, compassionate, have time for people, give people your energy, and just listen to be heard. Like, there's never been a better time to actually be all those things, because it just feels to me when I come into the city that energy is missing. And why would you not want to contribute to this, in a good way, to the evident suffering there is of people and technology, and it's like, it's insane the connection people have, and I have to my phone. I was walking in the gym the other day, and one of the receptionists was like, see you later, and I was on my phone, and I was like, I didn't even know you were there. I was like, that is sad that I was just going to walk past you, not have the opportunity to say goodbye. And I was like, this is shocking to me that I'm doing this. And it's on us to actually just choose when we're on our phones. Like, it's important, it's powerful, but there's so many of those opportunities that we're not there. But all it takes is to put the phone away and just keep your head up.
Yeah, man. They're traps, aren't they? They're attention traps. It's hard. It's difficult. I think there's another thing that I often think about is with having young children as well, is the whole social media thing, because I'm at an age where I didn't have a smartphone until I was an adult, and to think of having access to it from a much earlier age and what that can do, and sort of seeing there's already lots of statistics out about what it does to particularly young girls, and a correlation with the suicide rate. It's heavy,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of educating to be done there around what that is and how to manage it, how to use it. But I think we're slowly realizing that. I feel like with technology, we often we'll introduce some technology, and then it has great wild consequences quite quickly that it takes us a while to actually register what those are, and then we're on the back foot thinking, okay, right, we need to kind of manage this a little bit. Maybe that one was I suppose going. I guess it's all around intentions, I suppose. And I think with the seed oil industry that we were talking about earlier, it's just because everything's so profit orientated that people.
It does seem to be the case for a lot of things. Listening to a powerful book at the moment called Sedated, all about the pharmaceutical industry. And really, it's not necessarily about understanding that, although in the first couple of chapters he does, he talks about that capitalism has really contributed to this just perpetual growth of that industry. And the structure, what you're saying is that the system that we're a part of is really just economy orientated, which we talk about it all the time, but it's like, no, it's true, it's real.
Yeah.
How does that affect your work and stuff, and how are you leaning into that to understand that there can be a different approach with how you contribute and show up and grow what you're growing? I love to talk about return to nature and
I think I'm still learning. It's like part of me knows that there has to be a better way, and a more inclusive way, and a way of creating businesses that don't kind of follow that path and are more regenerative and include people and have community as a part of them. But I don't have all the answers. I'm trying to figure it out as I go along. But
I love that. People don't say that enough.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know, we'll
Mm-hmm.
kind of figure this out.
Yeah. I think, a dream for me is to one day live in a community and have, great people, like-minded people that we share, and we grow food and we invite people there to, have retreats and teach people about movement and breath work and meditation and just all of these modalities that heal and bring people back to their authenticity. And that's what Return to Nature is really about. It's about returning to nature and returning to yourself.
I saw like the answer I come up with is like, return to nature is me. So return to my nature. That's what I get from that. Yeah.
It's kind of there's a lot of layers to it really, because one layer is the idea of nature in terms of the outside world and the trees and the earth, and returning and connecting to that, because we are that, and so many of us have forgotten it. We walk around and we don't ever have our bare feet on the ground. We don't feel sunlight on our faces and our eyes, and we don't breathe and connect to ourselves on a deep level. So there's this idea that we're removed from nature in many ways, and I think a lot of I shouldn't say average people, but a lot of people out on the street would not see themselves as being as a part of nature in that deep way, or see that connection to it. So a lot of it is about literally connecting to nature. But then the other side of it is your own personal nature, because I really believe that everybody has just a beautiful, pure essence. And then there's things that get in the way of that. There's a lot of debris that we accumulate over the years of, trauma and, difficult situations that we go through that then cloud that access to this beautiful, authentic essence. And I think what we want to do is give people tools and practices to remove that debris and then have access to that authentic nature. Because everybody has their own authentic nature, and everyone's got their own unique authentic nature. It's a unique expression of life that they live and that only they can live. And it's kind of inviting people to walk the path of trying to explore and find out what that is and connecting to it, because it's definitely something that I feel like has been the process that I've started to go through, is connecting to that. And it's felt really it's felt like a real calling to share it with other people, and it's grown so beautifully organically into what we're doing now that it feels really good.
Yeah, beautifully said. Is this year different? Is there a big shift this year in terms of your output and what you're moving into in a deeper way?
Yeah, what we were noticing, because a lot of the work that we're noticing people doing with, I think, plant medicines, because on retreat and this kind of thing, it's easy to make a beautiful retreat and be in the sunshine and have amazing conversations and beautiful connections and transformative experiences that are otherworldly. But then you've got to go home and you've got to go back to your life, and it's raining and you're in England, and you might be in a career that you don't like, or you might be in a relationship where the other person doesn't really see you like the people saw you on the retreat, and it's hard. That's what integration's all about, And then this is speaking to that idea we said about embodiment as well. If you have this powerful experience, but then you go back and then you fall into the same patterns and nothing's integrated, then what's the point of it? The point of these things is to instigate some sort of positive change, positive growth. And so integration is just such a powerful and important part of any kind of practice. You can learn from everything. And so what we were seeing is that community is a really beautiful way to explore the idea of integration, and talking and sharing and having more experiences together that allow you to connect to the same type of energy that you feel when you work with plant medicine. So connecting through the breath, through sound, through sweat lodges, through meditation and journaling, all these kind of things. And so, yeah, this year we've got a subscription service. So it's a community that join online and get access to all of the events that we're running on a monthly basis, and the monthly sharing circles, and the retreats, and the events, and the dinners. And so we're putting out a lot of content, and a lot of beautiful events, and gathering a nice community of people together to just go on this journey of self-discovery, and to kind of hold each other through it, and to realize that you don't have to do it all alone. You know, you don't have to be sitting there diving into your shit on your own, and it be a solo voyage, and make it something where we can all grow together. Because I think community is so important. You know, I for a long time I think I had this idea that I've got to do it all alone, got to do it all on my own. And as time's gone on, I've just seen that collaboration and community, it's just so powerful. And you know, when I think about, you know, the future and my children, you know, I'd love it if, you know, there's this established community of people who, you know, are aligned to their own authenticity, and that, you know, they're doing the work, so to speak. And there's this beautiful community of people that they can be a part of, who are educating their children in a different way, and eating healthy foods, and have, you know, in some ways said goodbye to a lot of the things in our culture at the moment that we know are not serving us, and we know that are actually railroading us to destruction and ill health, and, you know, all the difficult things that, you know, you see in mainstream society. So it's it's the start of something that's a big vision, but it's a collective vision. You know, I know a lot of people that are involved in it. We know share a very similar vision for what we want out of the future, but at the same time, we're just taking each step as it comes. And what we always hold on to is that the process that's got us to here has been very organic, and it's you know,
patient.
It's been very smooth, and, you know, we've managed to accumulate this amazing group and team of people that help facilitate, and it's all felt very easy in terms of meeting people and realizing, there's a real resonance here. It feels right to get this person involved and make something together. And so we're continuing to not force, you know, and to just allow it to unfold. And we'll see where it goes, and see what happens. But, you know, it's brought a lot of joy to my life. Met incredible people over the years of working with it, and it keeps delivering in that sense. And that's one of my favourite things, is just meet the people that meet from doing that kind of work.
Yeah, and the transformation those people go through, and the witness to that. Watching people tear back the layers, or I heard something the other day, it's not necessarily going into the layers, it's actually just expanding. The layers are growing out rather than underneath.
Yeah, just a nice way to put it.
Witnessing that people are evolving in a sense.
Yeah, it's such a privilege and an honour to witness people go through the process. And yeah, it's just incredible to see how these practices can work with people on so many levels, you know, and they work on such a specific level. You know, it's not one size fits all. It kind of resonates, and it's very personal for whatever that person's life has been to that point. You know, these practices just hit them in the ways that they need.
Yeah, I think being involved, obviously, at one of the events, what you do so well is that you, and I've spoken to you about this, you somewhat embed yourself in the group in a really healthy way. That's not stepping into the circle and talking from a place that isn't a part of it. And it's just one thing that's it's not rare, but it's hard to find, if that's even a thing. But you don't see it that often.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think when you do, it's incredibly potent, and that's what I felt, and it felt really good because then people aren't going away with a attachment to the people there. They're going away attached to themselves a bit more. That makes sense. I want to come back to the point you mentioned about doing it alone, because it's so relevant for me right now. Like in this van, just fucking working away, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, it's so hard to do it alone, and it's almost like it's not the way, it shouldn't be done that way. It's not what's happened in our history, and it just doesn't feel right. Like, I ask the people listening, it's like, how many people are doing it alone that you know? Probably everyone.
Yeah.
All the guys, all the dads, all your colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
are they, all the people starting businesses, it's like, you're all doing it alone.
Yeah.
Is that the way,
It's what I think, mainstream culture has told us is the way in many ways. And, you see it right through to like the family, and you see mums stuck at home and trying to raise children and having, not much help at all. And that's just not the way that it's supposed to be being done. I remember, I think it was Gabor Mate I was listening to or reading, I can't remember now, but he was talking about how when we lived in more tribal cultures, like children would be around other adults, and that would become their sphere of influence. Because obviously initially when they're very young, like my kids 4 and 1, their sphere of influence is really the family, like me, mum and dad, are where they're getting most of their influence from. But then as they get a bit older, that sphere of influence extends. And if you're in a tribal setting and you're around lots of other adults, then they kind of now, my son's looking up to you, and he's like, oh, like Chris is doing this and doing that. And he starts to learn and want to absorb what you've got to say. And that's really healthy, because it's another embodied adult who's grown and dealt with his shit, who's actually having an influence on him. But now what we do is we stick them all in school, and their sphere of influence then just becomes the other kids.
Same age,
yeah, and so then that's where they're picking up all their influence from, and that's where you get this conflict between sort of what the parents are saying and then them wanting to just listen to the other kids in their classes and that sort of thing. And so it's not ideal. And I often find that when I meet all these amazing people that come on the retreats, I just think, wow, I just love these people to be influences in my children's lives.
Role model.
Yeah, that's it. Everywhere you look, everyone is brilliant role models. And when I think about if you lived in an environment where those kind of adults are around my children regularly, imagine what they take from all of these amazing people who are here. And it's that's the way I feel. Like there's a huge part of me that feels like that's the way we should be doing things, and we're not there yet in terms of being able to live in that way. But there's a part of me that kind of knows that we're doing it wrong.
So I have to talk about this because we're on the subject of kids and visiting. Got invited to visit a Montessori school today, which Tony Riddle's educated me about, that kind of side of things, and what there are issues and stuff, but it sometimes has this idealized, all about play and all about facilitation and independence. But I was really curious, and I am still, about what it's like in that classroom. So I sat for like over an hour, observed the kids, and many things that I was learning was that there's a variation of age groups. And the younger kids, they gravitate towards the older kids, and they're teaching. The older kids are teaching the younger kids how to do things, and they're like, you don't know something unless you teach it. So, who in the school system is practicing what they're learning? Probably not a lot. It's you're just getting a one-way kind of traffic in terms of what you learn. But they were doing that naturally, and it was so beautiful to just watch this kind of orchestra of kids just doing very different things. If they wanted to go over here, if they wanted to eat, they'd go eat. If they wanted to go wash, they'd go wash the dishes and plant and chop flowers. And it's just very calm, very calm. Like there was not much. It was such a variety and a spectrum of kids, different energies at play. But there was no point where the teacher was trying to get them all to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Why would that work?
Mm-hmm.
You got a spectrum of personalities.
Yeah.
So it was a different way of seeing classroom.
Yeah, I think there's so much room for improvement from sort of the mainstream way we educate children, and I've got some friends who've got a daughter, and I think she's going to a private school, and came home and was not up to speed or up to the standards that were supposed to be met, and then was starting to, I think she was like 6 at the time, and was starting to embody this idea that she's not smart. And it's like, how can how can you be 6 and starting to feel like you're already starting to inherit this mental pattern that you're not smart? It's just you're making mistakes there if that's what the child is coming home and feeling and thinking, because no 6-year-old should be thinking that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Einstein didn't speak until he was 3 and didn't write until he was 7.
That's it.
It's a spectrum of it, but it seems it's almost like laughable, I feel, to me and you, because we kind of understand it, and it's like, of course that's not going to work. Of course you're training kids to be a certain way, an individual in this culture. Like, it's so obvious that that's going to be the result. But what do we do? You're talking about it. We're rewriting those narratives and really doing our best to understand that there's another way.
Yeah, I feel like change will kind of happen in where it will be, groups will kind of form and have similar ideas and values about things like educating children, things like health and what they eat and that sort of thing, and we'll just start to break away, because if society is going to become more rigid, more structured, more controlled, then the kind of the opposite reaction to that will be that people just leave it and dip out of it, and I could definitely see that happening, being some sort of a split sort of forming, because I think ideologically there's already a huge split, from people, a lot of the people that we know and around, we don't eat the same food that you can just get at any kind of place.
I'm in London and there's nothing to eat.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, this makes any sense.
Yeah. And it's just that it's a lot. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I know, man. Yeah, it's heavy. It's heavy, but it's also there's so much. Like Zach Bush talks about this a lot. It's like, why were we sad when certain species had to disappear to give birth to the new? It's like, why are we putting our own judgments on what's been and what is about to be?
Mm-hmm. I listened to Peter Crone talking about this. Do you know of him?
Yes, I resonate with him a hell of a lot.
Yeah,
there's not much I disagree with him on.
Yeah, he's a pretty amazing human, and he was saying how this whole process that the world is going through at the moment, it's a birth, it's a rebirth, and he's like, when you think about the process of birth, it's
labour.
It's tough. It's not pretty. It's difficult. It's dark. It's heavy. It's tough.
A lot of cravings,
and it's dangerous. But then you come out the other side of it, and this is what we're going through at the moment. And I thought that was a nice way to look at it. That there has to be, there has to be darkness for there to be light. And the more we descend into the darkness, the more the light will penetrate and shine through it, I think, and that's it. That's what we have to hold on to.
On a practical level, is there anything that scares you about leaning into the community side and creating that and starting that and putting out that energy? Does anything scare you? Obviously, I had Bruce Parry on. You're following him, by the way, so that's nice. You got your question answered, so you'll have to wait to listen to that.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, pretty much the whole of the conversation. But he talked about egalitarian communities and him going on his own journey to understand what was right for him, and what's still right for him, and where to spend the time, and what communities align, etc., and trying new things and stuff. And a lot was coming up for me around like what I fear around like communities, because you don't know until you're there, and it has to be a certain like experiment trial almost. It's not, you're not all in. It doesn't have to be that way. nothing is.
Yeah.
But there's a fear in me. I haven't quite put my finger on it yet, but it maybe through media and through cults and you know, like that kind of ugly energy that is portrayed out there about communities, perhaps.
I mean, you know, the thought of doing something like that and it all going wrong and descending into, you know, like some of the documentaries that you've seen of these communities that turn into sort of crazy cults and that kind of thing.
We can put some images up on the video of you over what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's definitely, nobody would want that to happen. But I think that the fear really is that the reality of that dream would mean massively uprooting my family and asking them to trust in following a path that is not necessarily, laid out, and it would be a lot of change,
a bit messy,
a lot of and it's not, it's not like it's going to be sunshine and rainbows and be easy to do anything like that. So that's, that's a bit worrying. And at the same time, I don't know if that will be the answer. I don't know if kind of going away and setting something like that up and shutting yourself out from the wider society is the answer, or if it's better to be in it and to create change from within. I just know that, there's part of me that feels like I want that. I want, because I think where I've had glimpses of experiencing what life might be like that on retreat. Obviously, it's only for a very short amount of time, and it's probably a lot more.
Feels like a lot longer though.
Yeah, it does. And like something that Louis always says as well is he's always like, well, at the moment I live around lots of other people, but I don't know any of them. So it's like, well, why not live around lots of other people that I like and I know? And that's essentially what I feel like I want really is to kind of just live around people that I know and I like, and that share similar values and outlook on life and health and well-being and this kind of thing. And because the other thing as well, it's when it comes to educating children, it's not always easy to go down the homeschooling route. Things like financially, if both of you need to work and this sort of thing, it's tough. But then if you have a group of people, maybe you can collectively homeschool, where you get a small group of children together and you educate them that way. So it all becomes easier when there's more people involved.
Yeah, I think the scary thing for me is like saying no to people, or like, what does that process look like? Say if it gets to a certain point where it's attracting more like minds, and I don't want to be lazy with my wording here, but like more people are coming and wanting to spend time there, and of course it's about being abundant. It's about saying yes and wanting people to enjoy the fruits of the work and stuff. But then it's like, when does it get to a point where it's like, okay, this isn't serving people, or this group or this person isn't serving the greater good. I think there's that within me that's like,
there's a lot to consider. There's a hell of a lot. It's how you manage things like conflicts and disagreements, because they're going to come up and this kind of thing, and having healthy ways to do that. But yeah, I think the idea of circles and having regular things like that where people voice their truth, I think helps to maintain cohesion, and I think that things like that could really help. I've got to write a manifesto or something, man. I've got to figure it out.
Yeah, man. I think well, that's the thing with technology now, right? So you can hold an amazing whatever it is online, where it's like, I really need people to dive into this, and it's accessible, it's free. It's like, I need people to learn certain things, or put them on a shadow course or work course or whatever it is, and it's like a way of people like with me, like my retreats, I get people to apply. It's like, answer these specific questions. It's not going to take long, and it's super free and easy, and it helps the process. it helps actually the other men know if it's for them or not. Some people probably look at the questions and be like, okay, not for me.
Yeah.
I couldn't really
Yeah, it's
answer
a
that.
filtration
For sure.
filtration process.
Yeah, nice, man.
Yeah, but I think just like the other thing with the return to nature is this idea of kind of bringing back ritual into life and having events that are aligned to the solar calendar, so that we're connecting to those cycles. And I've got this, I don't know what it would be yet, but I think it'd be beautiful to create something that was like a rite of passage for young boys to go through. That's some sort of tradition that is done, that is like a marker for that, because we've lost a lot of that. We don't have that.
Taken from the mothers in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Shaved from head to toe.
Yeah.
Put in the sweat lodge.
This is it. I guess the idea of a rite of passage is to prepare the boy for life as a man in the world that he exists in. And I love stories about rites of passage from sort of other cultures, and there's one from this North American Indian or Native American tribe that they would basically have this crazy rite of passage where the guys would get hooks put into their skin, and they get hoisted up into the air, and they dangle there until they pass out, and then they're let down, and then they offer their little finger, and then the chief would chop off their little finger. And then they have the villagers all stand in a circle, and they run around the circle, and then the villagers will put the hooks that are attached to string, and they'll pull out the hooks and rip them out of the skin. And it sounds incredibly barbaric. And these the boys would say it's the best day of their lives. And when you think about rites of passage, and you think, well, that's fucking crazy. Like, nobody wants to do that. But the reality of the world that those boys had to live in and exist in was one where there were other tribes out there that would come through and murder the men and rape and kill the women of their tribe. So it's like they had to be warriors. They had to be ready to face some really, really intense stuff. And so the level of that rite of passage was preparing them for the life that they were going to live as a warrior in this tribe. And obviously we don't face that kind of danger now. Life over here in the West is very, very safe in comparison, but we have a world to live in. And so it's what rite of passage do we need now for young people that prepares them for life as a man in today's world? And it's obviously not as intense as that, but it involves something. I think now, we do things like we get into cold water, and it's like, oh yeah, look at this, I'm in cold water. And I think obviously it's, those Native American boys would laugh at that being considered anything like a rite of passage, but it does speak to the idea of seeking this discomfort and putting yourself in voluntary discomfort. And because life is so comfortable, that's how comfortable life's got now, is that just going in an ice bath is seen as like really intense thing to do, because we're just so comfortable all the time. We can regulate the temperature in every room we're in. We've got comfortable soft things to sit on all the time. We sleep on soft beds. You can get exotic fruit from pretty much any shop that you walk into any time of year. It's crazy how comfortable life is in comparison to how it's been over the years. And so how do we seek that discomfort? How do we grow if there's no discomfort? And it's interesting to think what something like that could be for young people. But it would probably involve things like ice. We don't want to be hooking any boys up and hoisting them up into the air, I don't think. I think their parents would be very happy.
Yeah, I'd walk in and it's just like, what is going on? Yeah, man. There's so many things that I could riff off on. I think the most people who I love spending time with create their own challenge. They're seeking the challenge. They're seeking those moments to grow and to lean into the thing, because they get it, they understand it. Without that, life's going to be challenging for you, and if you don't prepare, strengthen a muscle, you're going to be better for it when the challenge comes your way, because it will. But on the rites of passage, I think people look at cannibals like as a shocking thing, but we're humans. Yeah, we have the same core needs, social, spiritual, whatever. but we have such a spectrum of ways we've been in the world. So what's normalized in one culture is completely opposite in another. And the story of what it means to be human is really, well, you have to choose that for yourself. It comes down to choice. We exist better in certain environments, and there's things we need and we wouldn't live without. But in terms of like how we live, it's a complete spectrum. There's no one way. And I think the more we can kind of get that, then the more we can just lean into, okay, yeah, what makes sense for us. And it is about choice. So yeah, choosing those things, and the challenge aspect of it all is the way.
Yeah,
it really is. It just seems.
I think the other challenging thing there as well is that, you know, those boys in that tribe, there was only really one option for them, and it's to be a warrior in the tribe, and it's, you know, it's an absolute honour to defend, you know, because the tribe is not just random people. They are, you know, your sisters, your brothers, your aunties and uncles and grandparents, you know, so to defend them is an absolute honour. Whereas now, you know, any young person is just overwhelmed with the choice of what to be. You know, it's not just like this one thing that, you know that's what you're going to be, and you want that more than anything. It's just, you know, you don't know what you want to be, and people don't know what they want to do with their lives, and there's endless options to choose from. And it's, again, that can be stifling. You know, we live in sort of information age, and there's so much information, there's so many options that we're drowning in them, and it's very hard to navigate and to know. So I think probably the key thing that could help young people is that knowledge of self. You know, because if you don't really know yourself, then it's so easy to get swept along, and there's all these options. And you go, oh, well, I might as well do that, and I'll do that, and you know, you don't know what to do. But if you can get through childhood and into adulthood and have a real sense of who you are, and I think that's going to stand you in the best stead for taking the path that, you know, is for you, as opposed to just getting swept along and drifting along and not really ever making decisions that are aligned to who you are.
Yeah, it's really hard to be present when you have no direction also.
Yeah.
I was talking to Brian Reeves on the other podcast about this. It's so bang on that it's so difficult to be present in your relationship, in your work, if you just don't know what direction you're going in. Because, yeah, we live in an age where everything's possible. Like, it really is. You said something at the start, can't remember what it was now, but it was about the possibilities we have. And for me, it kind of stifles me, because I feel like everything is possible. And I'm like, good God, just pick one thing and stick with it. But I know I'm capable of anything that I can. But with that becomes like, you have a certain responsibility to choose also. Like, there's so many powerful places we can spend our time and choose what we want. But we have to just pick one. Like, the only wrong decision is not making one. I would say.
Yeah, and I think I've definitely been falling into that trap at times of because I feel like I've started down this path that is really aligned to who I am. Lots of opportunity seems to come up, and everything seems exciting and something I'd like to do. So the challenge for me has been, you got to say no to things. Don't say yes to every single thing that comes up, because it's actually after the Portugal retreat, you know, I was massively burnt out. I think at that point I was exhausted, and then just like running around working, tired after the retreat. Waking up really early, going to do sessions, working on all the other different projects, and then ended up falling asleep at the wheel, crashing my car. And you know, that was a massive wake-up call for me to be like, you need to slow down, set some boundaries, and say no to some things, and not say yes to everything that is coming in, because it's no good. You know, you got to reserve and preserve that energy and look after yourself. And yeah, that was a real wake up call. October last year.
I had a newfound respect for you when you admitted that in the group. I had a big moment where I was like, wow, like that is practicing what you're preaching. when you just audioed the group, or was it a message and you were like, this has just happened?
Yeah.
Can you talk me through that process of that decision of even communicating it to the group?
I think, obviously in the aftermath of the retreat, the group, there's a lot of conversation happening in the group, and we cultivate this real honest, open communication. And I think, I don't know if it was just people kind of sharing about where they were at and what they were facing, and it just felt, I mean, that's where I was at. I just had fallen asleep at the wheel and written off my car. Nobody was hurt in the accident, but it was a very real situation. It could have been a hell of a lot worse, and it happened because I didn't set boundaries, and I didn't say no to things that I probably should have, giving myself that time to just restore and replenish after the retreat and the intensity of a week like that. And it just made me look at lots of things I was doing, and realizing massively that I wasn't really saying no to things. I wasn't saying, look, I just don't have the capacity for it. I'd say yes and then worry about how to fit it in at a later stage. And I think maybe that would be okay if I was getting sleep at night as well, but when it's factored in with having 2 young children and waking up a lot throughout the night, then it just all came to a head. And I think it was the universe, and I think that message had lightly come to me beforehand about slowing down, which I didn't take heed to. And they say the universe will keep giving you the same lessons. It's like, okay, you paying attention? Okay, right, you're going to pay attention now. And it's the pain teacher. They say that the pain teacher, first of all, she whispers, but then if you don't listen to the whispers, it gets louder until you will listen. And that's when you overexert yourself and you get injured or you do something, and you learn from the pain. And for me, I think that was it was a lesson. It was a wake up call to slow down a little bit and to not try to do everything. And then I had lots of realizations as well around the archetype work, like king, magician, warrior, lover, and you've got the boy psychology archetype. So before the boy has become a man, like the hero graduates to become the warrior. And the fallacy of the hero, and the reason that he's not the warrior yet, is because he thinks he can take on every challenge, and he doesn't know his limits. Whereas the warrior picks and chooses the battles. He's very calculated about what where he directs the energy, because he knows that you can't win every battle. And I was like, fuck, I'm the hero. I'm the hero at the moment.
We live in a culture of that, man. It's really fucking toxic.
Yeah.
That the hero is the pinnacle.
And I was like, yeah, that's it. I'm thinking I can just do everything, and that accident showed me you can't. You need to pick and choose and be more calculated, embody the warrior energy, and direct it in a much more focused way. And that was there's teachings in everything. And I always feel like in the aftermath of retreats, I feel like especially receptive to the wisdom of just life, and how many, it's always giving you feedback. It's always giving you cues as to how you can adjust and change. And I think, with that being the literal week after, I just got a lot of insight from it. And it's been, I'm just glad it wasn't worse than it was, because I met someone a week afterwards and told him about it, and told me that his friend had fallen asleep at the wheel and died. So I was like, it's crazy. Wow. So I just got lucky.
Powerful, man.
Yeah.
That really is.
Yeah, man. It was a lot, and it shook me up, and yeah, but I'm grateful for it. You got to be grateful for all of these things. And like I say, I think there's lessons and teachings in absolutely everything, if you look, if you notice. That one was a real one.
Yeah, man. And I also, just on my point, like how you communicated that, it just said a lot about what you're able to step into, like the vulnerability and just the embodiment of the messages that you're receiving. No hesitation there. Clearly no hesitation to communicate it and be like, this is a big one for me. I need to own up to this.
Yeah.
And just hold my hands up and say like, I haven't got it figured out and I need to change it.
Yeah, you know, I think anybody, if you meet anybody that really tells you that they've got it all figured out, then you got to kind of question that a little bit, because we're all learning as we go, you know. And yeah, I definitely, even though I'm sort of organising the retreats, I don't pretend to be the person that's, you know, figured out more than anyone else. You know, I'm figuring out my stuff as I go, and I'm learning, and I learn from the people that come on the retreats a lot as well. And yeah, I just try to share my perspective on, you know, what life has taught me so far, and if it helps people, then beautiful, and if it resonates, even better. You know, and that's something recently that I learned from. I did a study group with a guy called Miski Takey. His name's Gareth, actually.
Scott told me, actually.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful study group on this book called The Four Altars, and part of that they talk about the idea of communication, which comes from this impulse and this instinct of expression, and just, you know, we have as humans this instinct to express, and that you see it in like kids. Like I've got a 1-year-old who just wants to express, and he's got no care about if anything is understood. He just needs to get things out, and so that first impulse is just to get out what is inside, to express it. But then as the art of communication is improved, the highest form of it is to resonate, and to resonate is to, you know, when what you're saying, you know, the other person really feels it inside. You know, it's not just information that comes in and it doesn't move anybody, but it's information that comes in, and, you know, it resonates. And if you kind of orientate yourself towards trying to communicate in a way that resonates, that's a powerful orientation to have. So I think about that, and try to resonate as much as I can.
That's cool. So would you look for, I guess, the would you look for did the audience know your audience, for example, like how you communicate in certain spaces? Is that a factor to it, or like feeling into the other person and where they're at?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, I'm going to, you know, lots of children's birthday parties from like school and that sort of thing, and you know, I know a lot of the families and parents, they're not into the same things that I'm into, and they're not into a lot of the things that a lot of the people that I'm around a lot are into. Very different, and you know, we still communicate, and I always, you know, want to be able to talk and to resonate, even, you know, with people that are not necessarily, don't know, they might have not even heard of breath work or, you know, mushroom retreats or anything to do with any of these kind of things. So but I still would, you know, I still want to be able to talk to them and to resonate with them, and to make people think, you know, and to have a perspective that, you know, is valuable in some ways. And but you know, you can't you can't control what people pick up and take, but you can just try to be perceptive and aware of the audience, and of your own energy, and just try to speak from truth. And I think ultimately that if you are speaking from truth, it's going to resonate, you know, because we're so connected. We know we've lived different lives, but you know, we've all faced similar versions of the same thing, the same, like the core of the pain that we've all felt is very similar, but there might be different details. And so I think when you talk about going through things that are difficult, or things that you've overcome,
I think that's a good point.
and you speak to it from a real place of truth, then in some way it'll resonate. Because I just see that whenever we have sharing circles, and everybody shares, I can resonate with pretty much what every single person says, even though they're talking about their own real personal things that have happened to them. Those things haven't happened to me. There'll be something about the way that they process it, or the way that they just understand it, that resonates in something in me.
Yeah, there's a quote that comes up, which is, we're all happy for different reasons, but we're all unhappy for the same reasons. So it's true, it's the pain that we feel is very similar.
Yeah.
It's this connection
from
each other, from ourselves, the pain, the real struggles that we go through.
Yeah, because I think, you know, going back to this idea of you know, society steering us to this kind of individual way of living and of being, and you know, and if you sit in enough sharing circles, you realise that so many people face similar things and face, everybody's been through pain. Everyone's been through significant emotional events that shape the way they are and shape how they think about themselves and their place in the world. I'm yet to meet anybody that's like, no significant emotional events. It's just been sunshine and rainbows. It's literally everybody. And just the nature of going through a significant emotional event that binds us and connects us, because we've all been through something. Everybody you meet's been through something, and they might not fully come out the other side of it, but they might be in that process. But just knowing that and recognizing that, and even being at a point where you can be open about it and you can talk and share, and you know the things I've been through, I know the things you've been through. It just binds people together and brings people closer, and liberates people. Because the thing is as well, people always think, they get attached to, it's the thing. The thing is the thing that's bothering me, but it's never the thing. It's what you think about the thing is the thing that is really like destroying you or like holding you back.
Because that same thing can happen to someone else and it'd be very different.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's all perception. And so when you hear somebody who has maybe a different perception about the thing, then it kind of prompts something in you to think, maybe there's a different way to think about this thing that I've been going through. But people get very attached to the thing and they put everything. It's that. That's the thing. That's the source of my unhappiness or my pain or my difficulty.
Yeah, and if that thing, someone's talking about it in a different way, it's more positive, that can uplift you. Or if they're talking about it in a more negative way, you're like, wow, it really isn't that bad for me. So it's just it's sharing, man. Yeah,
it's powerful. It really is. I think that component of all of the work that we do with Return to Nature and on retreats is one of the most potent parts. Just being sat in a circle and hearing people talk openly and being able to speak openly and be heard without any judgment is so beautiful, and it's so healing. Because a lot of people don't have access to that, in day-to-day life or with, the usual friendship groups and social groups, and so it kind of fosters this very cohesive and connected environment.
Yeah, it's being very direct. It's interesting when given the space, what people navigate towards. It's more like, I'll just be direct to how I'm feeling. Because that's what's present for me. There's something within me, what I feel, and it's present, and they'll talk about it a lot.
And it openness permits more openness.
Yeah,
there's been so many times when I've seen people, someone will share and they'll go deep and they'll be really open, and then the next person will share and they'll say, well, I wasn't planning to say what I'm going to say, but because everybody's been so open, I'm going to, here's what it is, and then they say it, and it's like, okay, beautiful. That's it. That's what we want.
It's like that first person in sharing circle. They're like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And now it goes around. They're like, damn it, should have shared all.
We've had it before where we had somebody.
Let's go around again.
Near the start who shared and was a little bit caged, and then it went round and everybody was really open. And then she was like, I feel like I need to share again because I didn't really, I wasn't.
Maybe that should be a thing. Every time it goes back to that same person whoever starts.
Yeah, or anyone. If anyone feels like, does anyone feel like they didn't fully get out what they needed to get out? That's a good point. Yeah, that'd be really, really good to do that.
Yeah, just to open that up.
Yeah, just that opportunity, because I'm sure that happens where people think I didn't quite say what I really wanted to say to them, and held back because there's that fear of judgment. Fear of what I say is gonna. Make people think a certain way about me or something like this. And so we want to remove all of that.
Fear of failing. Fearing your success as well.
Yeah.
That's a big one. I listen to Lewis Howes a lot. He's doing the rounds.
Yeah.
And talking about greatness. Maybe we could end on that, what greatness means to you. But he talks about failure and two biggest fears, failure. Two biggest judgments, is it? No? What was it? Failure, success and judgment, essentially. And those three things orientate our kind of growth, whether we stunt it or whether we leap forward. Yeah. So greatness, how does that? How does that feel?
It's interesting greatness.
It is, isn't it? It's like a concept that we've come up with.
Speaking about this with some clients recently, actually, and we're just talking about how greatness, real greatness, comes at a cost. It really does, and I think a lot of people think that they want greatness because they don't understand the cost that how much it costs. And you look at any like athlete at the absolute top of their game.
The Weight of Gold.
Yeah.
There's a documentary called The Weight of Gold that talks about this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the weight of being successful.
Yeah.
Because it puts you into a certain category and no one can relate and people want to pull you back down.
Yeah. Just how much it takes, how much you have to sacrifice, how much your relationships, your family, social relationships, all these things, they massively have to go to the sidelines to truly achieve greatness. And so I think a lot of people celebrate greatness and think that they want it, but if they were to truly understand the sacrifices that are required to become truly great, I don't know if they would. And that's okay. It's it's okay to not want to be the Michael Jordan or the Tiger Woods if it's not called you, because a lot of those people, there's a lot of pain in achieving that greatness that
drives them.
That drives them, yeah, and that you might not necessarily want if because people think they can just live the life that they live now and become great, and it's like you can't. Like you have to make incredible sacrifices for it. And I thought about it a lot with my football career and playing football from a young age, and to be because I've been in my younger years I enjoyed being social. And I enjoyed all these kind of things, and I think for me to truly be great, I'd have had to have been way more disciplined and one-track minded than I think I had capacity for at that time. But then, I reflect, I've enjoyed those things, and would I want to not have those to then achieve this one thing? I don't know. I think on paper people see the glory that greatness brings and think, yeah, I want that, but then they don't really fully comprehend or know.
Yeah, you can't just take a part of someone.
Yeah,
you can't just take the thing you see and
accolades.
Like.
Yeah, I'll take all the accolades, but the work.
Yeah,
I don't know if I want to do the work, but yeah, it's tough, and yeah, I don't know. Like one of the teachers who I've learnt a lot from is a guy called Ido Portal, and he talks a lot about, I guess it's not necessarily greatness, but specialists and specialism versus generalism, and becoming a specialist at something means that you're sacrificing a lot in other areas, and so his approach is to be a generalist and to kind of be good at lots of different things, and to be a bit more broad with your approach to this is specifically around movement. Really. It
is, yeah, but in that it's still specialist.
Yeah.
Do you feel?
Well, this is it. With him, it's tricky because he's very some of the wordplay that he uses is it's kind of done, I think, for getting lots of eyes on it. Like he's got a video called Upper Body Basics, and they're like far from basic things that he's doing in the video, but
to him they are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
he's very intricate in all of his.
Yeah,
but he's careful with his language, right?
Yeah,
he really does know the power and the disempowerment of language can come from that.
But yeah, I do like the approach of thinking about things and being a bit more of a generalist as opposed to a specialist. So kind of putting all your eggs in this narrow focus, and I think in truth probably what makes him good at the things he is that he does become a specialist, but for a window of time to get to a certain level, and then you bring the focus to something else.
Okay.
And I think, going back to greatness. Yeah, I don't know. Do I want greatness? I don't know if I do.
I guess that's the beauty of it. You can define what it means to you.
Yeah.
We might have had this perception of what greatness is. It's like being really, truly great at something. But you can define. You can be a great specialist. You can be a great generalist.
Yeah, I think what I'm thinking of it as is being considered the number one in the world at what you're doing, or something like that.
Yeah, man, what's your definition?
Yeah, but like you say, you can be, a great friend, a great dad, a great partner. So I guess greatness in that sense.
To truly embody greatness.
Yeah. But I suppose, if I was to consider what greatness is, if a friend, do I consider them a great person? I think it would just be a person who is just honest and open, and living life that they want to live, and spreading good energy around, and I think that there's a lot of greatness in that as well.
Nice, man. Yeah, let's wrap this up anyway.
All right, bro.
What do you want to leave us on? What do you want to point people to? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, so the human experience, we've got a one-day event. I don't know when this is coming out, but it's on the 1st of April. And we've got a few more events planned over the summer. That's the humanexperience.uk, and then Return to Nature. Lots of events coming up for that over the next few months, and retreats, which is returntonature.earth. Then social media, Sesto Flow, catch me on there, and that's about it. That's probably the easiest places to get me.
Nice, man. Lovely. I've enjoyed this, man.
It's been nice.
Keep going.
Yeah.
It just feels very feel very content with just talking to you, and there's a lot of peace that comes from that. Whenever I speak about you to people, it's like, oh yes, it's like this is brother energy, this kind of like
good. I like
caring.
To hear that. Yeah, no, good. I'm glad people are
Strong
speaking
figure.
nicely.
Yeah, man, they do. They speak highly of you.
It makes me feel happy.
Yeah, man. Good, man. Let's wrap it up.
Yes, bro.
Let's give you a hug.